Hey there, I'm Adrienne, transformation coach and your go-to gal for navigating grief and loss. On this show, we're not shying away from tough conversations. Let's talk about how we're really feeling and how to show up in our lives even though so many hard things have happened. Loss and grief are tough topics, but witnessing each other's pain and getting really honest about what we want our lives to look like in our next chapter is the way forward. You're not broken. You deserve happiness. And even though you might not think that's possible, or even feel like your life is over, I'm here to show you that you can feel peace, purpose, and joy again. Let's talk about all things change, loss, and grief, and how to move forward so we can create a life we love. Welcome to the Living with Loss podcast. Hey there, I'm Adrienne. Welcome back to Living with Loss. Today we're going to be talking about grief and loneliness related to relocation. And you might be wondering, why? Well, the reason I chose to talk about this right now is because I actually just finished up a multi-state move. I moved from Arizona to Idaho. This is not my first big move, so relocation is something I have a lot of experience with, and I understand the feelings that go with it. In addition to talking about the grief and loneliness that can come with relocation and sharing my story, which is kind of funny, a lot of ups and downs during a move, I'm going to provide you with 7 practical strategies for you to reduce loneliness and lessen the grief associated with moving. So I just want to jump right in, and I'm going to start off with kind of relocation and loneliness. You move, you're somewhere new, maybe you don't have any connection or community there yet. You feel lonely, you feel isolated. 40 million Americans move every year. And that does lead to feelings of loneliness and isolation because they're leaving behind established social networks. Moving, especially for job changes or new opportunities, can increase the risk of loneliness due to the disruption of established friendships and communities. So, the US Surgeon General has warned that loneliness has become a public health crisis. It's called a loneliness epidemic. It affects many groups, with adults experiencing a 29% increased risk of heart disease and a 32% higher risk of stroke due to social isolation and poor connections. This risk is particularly pronounced after big life changes like a relocation, a job transition, or other major shifts. So 50% of US adults reported experiencing loneliness even before the pandemic, with moving being a significant factor contributing to social isolation. Relocation, it's associated with emotional upheaval, and that can activate grief for what was left behind. Even if you're pursuing a new opportunity and there's something new and exciting happening, you can still grieve what you left in that previous place. Maybe there's friendships, routines, familiarity, right? It's been your home. That's difficult. That transition is really, really challenging. And the subjective feeling of loneliness, it's not just about being physically alone. You can be surrounded by others, right? Like you start a new job, you're in this new place, but you do have coworkers, you're surrounded by people, but you still feel alone. You still feel loneliness. And that's because when you go to a new place, you haven't yet established meaningful connections. And that's really important. Finding people that you connect with beyond the surface level. So you want meaningful connections when you go to a new place. If you have moved, right? Like, so for me, I don't live near family. I don't live near the people that I grew up with. I don't have a long-term community here. I work from home now. So it's not like I'm going to this place where I'm surrounded by these other people that are already established, right? It's going to take me some work to put down roots in a new community. And so that is very challenging for a lot of people. So loneliness after a move, it can feel very similar to grief. And really, you are grieving, right? Grief is just any emotional response to a change or a loss. Moving is a huge change. And it's not just the physical items or the places, it's really about the loss of relationships and emotional support system. And now I know, especially with technology, right? You don't have to live next door to your best friend anymore. But when you're able to spend time in person with somebody, that deepens the connection. So when you don't have that ability, you may have a close friendship, a deep connection with somebody, but that does shift and change when you're no longer in the same geographic area. If you live alone or have fewer social interactions, you're actually more likely to report feelings of loneliness, and that can lead to mental health challenges such as anxiety and depression. And we all know anxiety and depression are plaguing this country and have been since before the pandemic, but it's definitely on the rise. So I just wanted to kind of share some of these statistics because it illustrates how moving can really exacerbate feelings of loneliness and grief. And loneliness and grief can have significant mental and physical health implications. I wanted to start there and kind of paint the picture, right? If you've moved or you have a coworker that's moved and maybe you haven't looked at it through the lens of there's some challenge and there's some grief there, I encourage you to think about it that way. Maybe take a step towards establishing a meaningful connection with that person, becoming part of their new support system as they're in a new place. So for me, I just moved from Arizona to Idaho. Gosh, this is not my first big move. So I grew up in Boston and I moved to college in California. I only applied to schools in California. I wanted to basically go West Coast, opposite coast from where I grew up, complete change. And at the same time, when I was moving to California, my mom had moved to Las Vegas. All of my semester breaks, I then went from California to Las Vegas. And after I graduated college, I stayed in California for a little bit, but then I moved from California to Arizona and I moved around within Arizona. But I spent 12, oh gosh, actually 14 years. I spent 14 years in Arizona. And when I arrived in Arizona, I never thought like this is going to be the place that I live forever. I thought this is a pit stop. But in retrospect, I mean, 14 years is a massive chunk of your life to spend in one place. So in moving, I found that though I'm super excited and really enthusiastic about going to this new place, completely different. There's mountains, there's water, there's greenery. Just it's not the desert anymore. And I grew up around water, so I was, really excited, even though here it's lakes and rivers. But it just it felt like something that was much needed and I was excited about. So with all of that enthusiasm, there was some feelings of bittersweet, some emotion there because, I grew up essentially. I became like a real adult in Arizona. I had a career, close friends, the people that I had dated, the rescue dogs that I had. One I adopted while I was still in college, but two of them I adopted while I was living in Arizona not long after I got there. So it's just like all of these facets of my life were attached to that state and my life there. While I was super excited about moving in this new opportunity, there's definitely a part of me that was really reflective and introspective about that change and the time that I spent there, the relationships that I had, the experiences that I had. It's overall a really fantastic, positive experience so far. I was in Idaho for about a day and a half and I already went kayaking. I was hiking on a mountain in the same day. So, super excited about what's here and what's to come. And I'm also very excited about combining coaching with outdoor activity, which I think when you're in nature and you're outside doing something, you're connected, with where your feet are and you're out in the world, there is something special that happens when you're doing that really deep personal development work. So I'm excited about that in-person component that's going to be outside, getting active in doing things like that with clients. But the move itself, holy smokes. Yeah, it was challenging. It was really challenging, actually. We ended up a day behind schedule, like a full day behind schedule. We're like, oh, the truck will be fully loaded by after the first full day or like the second day. The truck will be loaded. We'll be on the road by noon. No, the truck wasn't loaded until like 8 p.m. that night. It was, like it felt like there was like six things left to get on the truck, and they were like the impossible six things to get on the truck. Exaggerating, but that's kind of what it felt like. So you're a full day behind. Everything's packed, the bedding, because of course we thought at this point like we were going to be well on the road, so we had to find a place to stay. First place that we booked and went to, I am obsessive about checking for bed bugs. I've done a lot of traveling all over the world, and you could be staying in the Ritz-Carlton or a roadside motel, and either way they could be present. All that's really required is somebody that has been exposed to them, came and stayed at this place. So, of course, I always check when I'm staying somewhere if there's bed bugs. This is actually the first time I found bed bugs when I checked. So, immediately, had to get out of there, find another place to stay. And I mean, we're talking like 10 p.m., and we wanted to be on the road super early the next day. We ended up finding another place free of bed bugs, stayed the night, got a good night's sleep. We were thinking we'll be up by 6, on the road by 8. We were actually on the road by 9:30. So it took us 34 hours to drive. We did do it's like a 3.5 hour nap in there. But we really wanted to push through and just kind of get here. So it was a really long drive, but I love road trips. Thanks, Mom, for taking me on a million road trips as a kid, because that sure helps as you get older. But yeah, it was really, the move itself was fun once we were like on the road, but getting to the point of being on the road felt like the impossible dream. We got up here, we unloaded basically the whole night that we first arrived, and then the next day after we finished unloading, we were able to go spend some time by Lake Coeur d'Alene and get some really great food, walk around. There was a farmer's market going on. So it's just a really great evening, way to wind down, kind of see some of the area. And the next day, went kayaking, went hiking, just totally immersed in the outdoors. Still a whole lot of unpacking to do at my house. And if you happen to see any of these clips, the wall behind me is completely blank, which is not typical for me, but haven't gotten to the point of putting anything up or anything yet. So this is where we're at. Yeah, it has been interesting. So I got here as well, and I had internet booked to be set up, and I was excited. I'm like, ooh, fiber optic, getting an upgrade, gonna have some fast speeds, got everything running at once. Life is good. We're in civilization. Except that then when they were supposed to come out, they're like, oh, actually, you don't have fiber optic capability, so we're going to have to install that, and that's going to be like 2 weeks out, and then, we'll get everything turned on after that. I'm like, yeah, I have a business online. That is not going to work. So a lot of phone calls, a lot of time spent, and finally got internet set up. And then hilariously, I was actually doing a podcast interview with another person, and I have one of the fiber optic companies knocking on the door to install the internet that had been canceled because, they couldn't provide it. And they weren't due on that day. They were actually due like a week after they had knocked on the door to install it. So it has been fun and interesting getting set up and squared away in a new place. Yeah, like I said, I'm just so happy to be here, right? Like I went hiking up Mount Rathdrum 2 days after I was here, or 3 days, something like that. A couple days here, went hiking up Mount Rathdrum. It's like 10 minutes away from where I am. And it was just so beautiful and so green and quiet. And gosh, it was like just an amazing hike to have so close, and the weather. It was still pretty warm, but not like oppressive like the desert heat can be. So to be able to just go out 10-minute drive to an amazing trail up a mountain and have perfect weather, I felt really spoiled and excited in that moment. So silver lining to the move is there is absolute beauty all around me. I want to transition into, if you moved and you're feeling grief, you're feeling loneliness, and you're kind of by yourself a bit and you're not really sure what to do. You're like, okay, I get it. Yeah, I'm by myself. I'm sitting here. I'm lonely. I need to make some connections. How do I do this? So I'm going to share 7 practical strategies for you to reduce loneliness and lessen the grief associated with moving. The first thing is join some local groups or classes. This will enable you to meet people that share common interests. So this might be a book club, a fitness class, community events. I was actually looking on the town that I'm living in on their website, and they host a paint class a couple times a month. They have one for teens and then they have one for adults. So I, made some notes of that paint class. I'm like, I definitely want to go there. That'd be a great way to meet some people. And this just allows you to kind of jump into the community and create some new friends and some connections that will really help lessen that loneliness. And you'll be doing something that you already enjoy doing. Other thing that I want to do is look for some pickleball. So a gal that I went through coaching with, Sarah, she is an avid pickleball player and something that we talk about a lot. And I played tennis as a kid growing up, but I've never played pickleball ever, which is really sad. Being in a town that's active and outdoorsy, I know there is going to be a pickleball scene here. So I got to get myself immersed in that ASAP. That has been like on the list for longer than it should be. So the second thing on the list is explore your new environment. Just getting out and familiarizing yourself with the local attractions, the parks, the neighborhoods. It'll make the place feel more like home, right? It'll help you feel more established. So you may not have those connections yet, but you feel at home in your surroundings. Though I've had several dogs pass recently, I do still have one. And I've been walking her around the neighborhood every day, pass through a few different parks, kind of chatting up the neighbors as I go, just getting a feel for how to get around, what the street layout is. And it's just been kind of a great way to get out and get some steps in, and then also just kind of explore the neighborhood and feel a little bit more familiarized with my surroundings. So definitely get outside and explore the new environment. The third thing on my list, get outdoors and engage with nature. Like I said at the beginning, and I just kind of said as I was telling the move story, I prioritized getting out hiking and getting on the lake kayaking. Two things that I love, but also it doesn't matter if you're by yourself or with a group when you do these things, you're connected to nature. You're connected to the land, to the water. And that in itself is beautiful. And it alleviates those lonely, grieving feelings that you may be experiencing. Getting outside, generally, it significantly improves mental health and it reduces stress and anxiety. Again, whether you're alone or whether you're with other people, you're going to experience that benefit. And spending time outdoors, it really truly is great for your mental health, your emotional health, and it helps lower cortisol levels, and that reduces stress, anxiety, and symptoms of depression. So studies show that as in little as 120 minutes per week, so 2 hours per week spent in green spaces can improve your overall well-being. And this doesn't say that you have to go with a group of friends or you got to have somebody to do it with. Like if you just go outside and you immerse yourself in nature and greenery, that is going to have a positive effect on your mental health. So getting outside and engaging with nature, super, super important. Whether you moved or not, I encourage you to do that. But if you moved, especially, and you're feeling grief, you're feeling lonely, get outdoors. It will help, I promise. Fourth thing on the list is reconnect with friends virtually. And this might seem obvious, right? But get a group chat going on. Or, if it's not in the calendar, it's not going to happen. So get with your friends or your family that lives far away and say, hey, every first Monday of the month, can we get a Zoom call going or a FaceTime going at 6 p.m. so I can see your guys' face? I miss you. And make it a regular thing. I'm not saying like just shoot the text message to your friend, though that's great. I'm saying get something on the books where you're actually connecting with them at a designated time and it gives you something to look forward to. You're able to stay connected with these familiar faces that you love, and that helps ease the transition and it helps reduce feelings of grief because you're still connected to these people. And it's not just like sometimes if they think of me or if I think of them. No, like something is on the calendar and you're going to have that time with your people. Super important. So reconnect with friends, with family, but be intentional about it and schedule it. Fifth thing on the list, volunteer in your new community. So if you volunteer for local causes, you're going to meet people and you're going to feel connected to the new community. You're contributing to it. And we all know that giving back, it is positive for our mental health. It feels good, right? Like when you're able to do something for somebody else or cause a community, like that just feels good. And again, you'll be able to do it around other people. It's a great way to meet people. Similarly to joining like the clubs or the classes, you're meeting people that care about the same things that you care about. Automatically, just by being in that space together, you're connected in that way. So it's just a really easy, fantastic way to meet people. And again, just by the act of volunteering, by knowing that you're contributing and you're helping, you're going to feel better. It's going to boost your mental health. The sixth thing, attend local events or festivals. So coincidentally, as I'm kind of walking around Coeur d'Alene, one of my first nights here, there was a farmer's market going on. It's a really cool way to feel part of the culture and the life in the new area, right? Like people go to this weekly, that's a thing for them. And I just kind of happened to stumble upon it, which is pretty neat. You'll feel a sense of belonging, like just being there and being part of it. But another thing is there are a lot of people like vendors there, small business owners, maybe solo entrepreneurs, right? Maybe some of them just move there themselves, but you have all of these booths. So whether you're buying something or not, there's an opportunity to connect with people that are established in that area in your new community. So you can chat them up and talk about what they do, see what they've got going on, what are they a part of in the community, what are their favorite places to eat, what do they recommend that you have to do right away, and just kind of connect in that way in that place. It's a really great place to, again, meet people that are established in the community and a really low pressure, low barrier of entry way of engaging in conversation. You can just go up to their booth and chat them up. Hey, I'm new in the area. And then go from there. I'm sure they'll be super excited that A, you stopped to talk to them, and B, to share what they know about the area themselves. So definitely, if there's any local events, any festivals, anything like that going on, check the internet, see what's in your area, and go to it and talk to people. The other thing is to create new routines. Oftentimes when we move, or there's like a big disruptor, right? We lost somebody, there's a divorce, something big changed in our lives, right? Our routines tend to get disrupted. Same goes for when you move, right? You're trying to get unpacked, you're rushing around, you're maybe not taking care of yourself in the same way that you were. Your priorities are a little bit different because you're trying to get settled. Make establishing a new routine at the top of your list. Creating a new routine is super, super important. It will give you a sense of normalcy, of comfort, right? You'll know what you're going to be doing. You're going to know what that looks like. And it helps reduce feelings of grief because you're focused on the present. You're engaged with what you're doing with that routine, whether it's going for a walk, doing your workout, your morning coffee routine, whatever that routine might be. You're in it in that moment. And so you're not necessarily dwelling on what you left. And it really does. It brings comfort, and it kind of, you know that you're doing something that serves you. If you just moved and you're feeling lonely, you're feeling grief over the move, I hope these 7 things can help you. These 7 strategies can help you alleviate some of those feelings of loneliness and grief and help you make some meaningful connections in your new area. If you live in the Coeur d'Alene to Spokane area, northern Idaho, send me a message, shoot me a DM on Instagram, and let's connect, because I definitely do not know anybody in this area right now. And I'm definitely looking to meet people and establish some community myself. So if that is you, send me a message and let's connect. Yeah, that would be really fantastic. So again, thank you so much for tuning in, and we will talk next time. Have a great week. That's it for today's episode, my friends. Thanks so much for joining me on the Living with Loss podcast. Please like and follow the show so you don't miss an episode. If you're looking for more grief support, grab my free guide, 5 Essential Tools for Immediate Relief from Grief, even if you don't think that's possible. Head on over to adriancrowley.com and download it. Remember, you may not have chosen all the changes or losses in your life, but you get to choose what happens next. New episodes drop every Wednesday. Until then, have a fantastic week.